process.
Hey, everybody, this is Tim. I'm on vacation, and that's why I'm not on the regular part of the show, but here I am doing an interview, and one of the first interviews I wanted to do, I've been wanting to talk to this guy for quite a while. I've known him for, 5 years now, and works at WSB, but we'll get into that, but put together a really cool thing that's kind of caught on fire on social media, and you've seen me, if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, I like and share it a lot. Seinpeaks, which is a mashup of Seinfeld and Twin Peaks, and Jesse is my guest. Hello, Jesse. How are you doing, Mr. Brooks? And
I'm doing great, Tim. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm doing great. A little absent-minded. I've been doing yard work all morning, and
that's all right. I'm loaded up on flying biscuits, so I'm pretty much unconscious. I'm in a food coma still.
Oh, nice. Where do you live near Flying Biscuit in Atlanta?
Near Peachtree City.
Very nice. I forgot that they expanded quite a bit.
Yeah.
I remember when I first moved here, you had to go to the original place and then wait in line, and hopefully you got in.
Yeah.
So you're on to talk about a number of things, but primarily we're going to talk about a Kickstarter that you put together for, I guess, an audio. Like an audio play, Seinfeld, The Other Side of Darkness. It's an audio production now. Why don't you tell me about it?
Yeah, sure. So last year when everything was locked down and there was nothing to do, I started, because I'm kind of an amateur screenwriter, I decided to write a script where the idea was, what if David Lynch wrote an episode of Seinfeld? Okay. And it just started with a little bit of like Jerry Seinfeld's stand-up, but with kind of a weird, dark, dreamy kind of twist to it. And Instagram page, which you mentioned, is Seinpeaks, it's gotten a pretty big following, and so people would reply to it and comment on it and ask for more scenes and stuff, and it just evolved into an entire thing. And before long, it was a 150-page script. So once I finished it, some people were saying, okay, when are we going to do the live table read? Like, we want to actually hear it. And I'm not about to do all the voices, because I'm not the man of 1,000 voices like Mr. Tim Andrews here.
I'm not either. I'm a man of like 20.
Well, but hey, it's more than me. So I started reaching out to voice actors, found a lot of people who actually follow the page that do voices, and found musicians that wanted to write, theme music to go along with it. And so I decided, well, I've never done this before, but I'll just make it an audio play, just as if I were directing a movie, but just audio, and release it as a podcast. So that's where we are. Yeah, we have a Kickstarter, like you mentioned. There's a couple of days left in it, but we have already met our goal. But there's still time for people to give, and some people have thrown in some money to it. And I'm using that money basically just to pay voice actors and sound designers and composers and stuff like that to contribute to my dumb little project.
I never knew I could drive like that.
Idea for Seinpeaks and why?
Okay, so this is kind of fun. So I've been a fan of Seinfeld basically since I was 8 years old, and did not actually start watching Twin Peaks. Really, it was you and Mr. Erick Von Hessler that inspired me to watch it. I would come into WSB. Yeah, in fall of 2017 when The Return was on, I had still not watched any of Twin Peaks. And I would come in every morning, and while you guys were setting up for the podcast, Erick and you would just be talking about last night's episode on Mondays. And I said, well, okay, I'll give it a try, and binged the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks from the 90s on Netflix, and then immediately went into Fire Walk with Me and The Return, and I was just completely obsessed.
Isn't it great? Isn't it just amazing? It's the thing that you need that you didn't know you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so wild. I mean, I could talk the entire time just about how crazy Twin Peaks is, but I won't do that.
Let me tell you this. I was in college when Twin Peaks started. So not really watching a lot of television. And I do remember I like tuned in one night to watch it because everybody was talking about it. I'm like, what the hell is this show? And this is insane. There's a dancing little person and he's walking backwards, talking backwards. So I didn't really buy into it. And it wasn't until later on when I went and rented all the videotapes. And I really literally had to carry this box of videotapes around with me.
Yeah.
And watch them. And then I got addicted to it because I liked David Lynch movies. I didn't understand the show. I guess because I was just drunk all the time.
Yeah.
Our eyes met across the crowded hat store. I, a customer, and she, a coquettish haberdasher. I pursued, and she withdrew, and then she pursued, and I withdrew. And so we danced, and I burned for her, much like the burning during urination I would experience soon afterwards.
Gonorrhea! I don't know. I think that was just kind of a trend on the internet, which, I mean, it still is, but to take, different shows and ideas and mash them up into memes and stuff. And I didn't see a whole lot of people doing Seinfeld and Twin Peaks, and that was my main obsession.
The Sopranos is the one I watch. I follow any Sopranos account like that in yours.
Oh yeah. There's a few of those too. So yeah, I started that in like January 2018, and just started making dumb little mashups, and then people started sending me theirs. And before you knew it, had a Facebook group, had a couple of spinoff groups, and it's grown. I guess I have about 28,000 people following the page right now. And it's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. So what's going to happen with the script that you wrote? Are you going to break it up into mini episodes and release it as a podcast, or is there a video element? And again, this is from your Kickstarter. Why don't you plug that one?
Yeah, sure. So it
might be finished by the time this airs, or this drops. So
Yeah. As of right now, as of the day we're recording this, April 18th, there are 14 days left. So if you happen to reach this before May 5th, you can, first start at my Instagram.com/Seinpeaks. Click on the link in bio, and the Kickstarter's at the top there. Okay. And you can give a little money. I'm giving out rewards like stickers and, early access to episodes and shirts and stuff, because I've got a whole shop with memes on t-shirts and whatnot that I can give away. And what the plan is, we're going to record it this summer, mix it, add the music and all that. And I'm assuming it's going to be, when it's done, like a feature length, almost 3-hour thing. So I'm going to break that up into episodes. I'm guessing probably around 10 episodes. And at the end of each one, just like Twin Peaks: The Return, I'm going to bring on a band, like maybe an indie band or, an indie musician or something like that, and give it like a Roadhouse performance element. Just music that I've found interesting on the internet. Some folks that follow the page, some of them that just have kind of a David Lynch kind of vibe to them. So there's going to be, different elements to it. And I'm guessing it's going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, anywhere you get your podcasts, it'll be out there. And like you said, it's called The Other Side of Darkness.
Dial your number. Go ahead.
Seinfeld, The Other Side of Darkness. Now, a couple of months ago, I saw, I don't know who did it or how old it is, but somebody had done a thing mashing up, but they'd shot new footage of the characters from Seinfeld and kind of gave it a Twin Peaks thing. But I watched it and I couldn't really follow what was going on. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. So it was literally called Seinfeld: The Return. I'm a big fan of this. This is by a guy named Dominic Nero, who is an editor, a video editor for one of the big online blogs, entertainment blogs. I can't remember, Slate or Vice or something like that. But what he did, actually, he took footage from things that the main four from Seinfeld had been in over the years after Seinfeld. So with Jason Alexander, he took footage from his appearance on it's one of those crime shows, one of those CSIs or something like that he was on. Jerry, he took some clips from Comedians in Cars, Julia Louis-Dreyfus from some movies she'd done, and he created a new story just mashing up different scenes and mixing them around and putting them together, and kind of created like a Twin Peaks: The Return, but with the cast of Seinfeld. And it was really experimental and really interesting. So, something totally different from what I'm doing. And we kind of came up with our ideas independently and just started following each other and interacting with each other.
Oh, that's good. So
yeah,
there's no Seinfeld, Seinpeaks rivalry mashup like West.
Not at all. He got the attention of Jason Alexander, and a couple of the writers from Seinfeld retweeted that and said how impressed they were with it. So I'm hoping to get buzz like that with this thing. We'll see. But no, I'm really happy for him. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was neat. It was visually amazing. I just found it difficult for me to follow because I kind of like, oh, okay. It
was disjointed. And, it's hard to make a story out of, 20 different TV shows that are not related in any way and just taking scenes and putting them together. But it was pretty compelling.
I would have used not Dustin. Is it Dunstan?
Dunstan checks in.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. I saw that before I ever saw Seinfeld. That's a classic. Paul Rubens is in that.
I know. I watched it twice in Chicago when I was stuck in a hotel. It was on in the morning, and then the evening I was up there for a job interview, and this is years ago, and I was in Chinatown, and I got food poisoning. So not related, but I got food poisoning. And so I was stuck in this hotel in Chicago for 2 days, just, what happens when you get food poisoning, in and out of fever dreams. And Dunstan checks in was the bookmark of the day, in and out of it. So up until that point, I'd never seen it. Now it's one of my favorite films of all time. So how many voice actors do you have? And have I been slated to do any of the voices? That's important for me to know.
Yes. Actually, so I haven't finalized the casting yet. I know for sure that I'm going to have you at least do the character of Mr. Lipman from Seinfeld. But so to give the listeners kind of a scope, so this is currently a 150-page script, and I'm still not done writing. I'm still adding scenes, but I've got about 50 characters, most of whom were originally in Seinfeld, with a few new characters that I've written. And I've got a couple of voice actors that may do multiples, but what I'm going to end up with is probably anywhere from 20 to 40 voice actors that I'm going to be casting in this thing. And I've been talking to people, getting auditions, figuring out, I've got like a giant spreadsheet with all of my options and stuff. It's pretty complicated.
Cool. Well, hell, I'll do more if you need to. I've been working. I've been working on the what was Elaine's other boss's name? The catalog guy.
Oh, Jay Peterman.
Yeah, Jay Peterman. He's up to a lot of those voices. You'd think I'd be able to do, but I would try to do a lot of them. I'm like, I can't do that. Not that I can. It's just, but boy, every character is different. George is, and based off of Larry David, but Larry David's voice is different.
Yep.
So I don't know. You ever watch the show Fridays? Do you remember?
I've seen a little. I've only seen bits on YouTube, like certain scenes. Like I've seen the famous scene with Michael Richards and Andy Kaufman, where the sort of the staged storming off set kind of thing. I've seen a couple of the other skits. I was a fan of what I saw, but I haven't seen that much.
Yeah, that show came on. I think I was probably 6th or 7th grade, and so that was the cool thing to do, to stay up and watch that on Friday nights. But Larry David was one of my favorites on that show, and he looked so ridiculous because he had that big hair and he was so young, but it's still Larry David. So,
absolutely, yeah.
So you, in addition to Seinpeaks and the work that you do at WSB, tell everybody what you do at WSB. Because it's a radio group. There's a bunch of radio stations in our group, but you do not radio stuff. Tell people what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a video editor by trade, and I joined Cox Media Group in 2016. And right now I'm editing video for WSB, for all of our Atlanta radio stations that Cox owns, and then all across the country too. We have, I want to say, like 11 to 15 different markets that we operate in. And we're producing video content for all those. So it's me and one other guy putting together Zoom interviews and promotions for, station giveaways and all different kinds of things like that. So we stay pretty busy there. We just did a whole lot of video content for the American Country Music Awards that's happening this weekend.
So you did it for the Country Music Awards?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We artists that are talent interviewed. So we're going to post that content online.
It's amazing how much radio has changed. My first job in Atlanta that wasn't food was with a company called IQTV, and all we did. Now I got a job there in January 97, and I worked there till 2000. We did television commercials for radio stations. So we would go into a market. If they wanted a custom campaign, we'd shoot it. And then we would offer, syndicated versions of the same spot. And that market is completely dead because people like you work for a radio group. There's no need for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I always have trouble explaining what I do to people because even though social media is like so normal now, people still, they hear radio and they don't think that there's any kind of visual element to it. But yeah, we're very busy because I think that's what every radio station wants to do. They want to make sure that people can see the faces of the folks they're talking to, because that's what I've always said is with the great strength of local radio is the local talent. Because you can listen to music anywhere, you can get your news anywhere, but you develop a bond with the voices that you hear on radio over the years.
And I think that you do a good job of working with the people on the other radio stations. I've, Charlie on B98.5 and English Nick on our show on the Von Hassler Doctrine on WSB, but he's also midday guy over at the River. And those videos, they look so good. They look like they were produced in a commercial, a production house. So
thanks.
Kudos to you. No, they do. They just do. And, they look like they're filmed. I don't know what filter you use for that.
These days, everyone's just shooting stuff on their cell phones and sending it to me over, Dropbox and WeTransfer. But it was hard for me to do that at first, being a videographer and like wanting to get high quality video.
Right.
But I've gotten over it because these days people don't really care as much about that as long as they're interested in what people are talking about. And that's something that I've had to get used to, because it's like, it's TikTok and Instagram and we're so used to social video that sometimes if it looks too polished and clean and, too set up from a studio element, it almost seems kind of phony. Yeah. So that's kind of the strength of it right now, is that we have to do it that way, but it ends up, I think, forming a closer connection with the viewer.
Yeah. And I noticed this last year when I started doing the podcast on Zoom. The audio quality was terrible at first, and I was getting angry. Not like, but I was, it was disappointing, and I didn't know what to do. I was thinking maybe I had to wrap it up. But then I started listening to all my favorite podcasts, and they had the same problem. So we're all apparently like, well, it's all right. It drops out. We're in a pandemic. But it'd be nice to be able to get that Tim Pool. You know who Tim Pool is? Tim Pool is a guy that started doing street reporting a couple of years ago, and now he has kind of a media empire, and he has a studio like Joe Rogan does, or people sit in, and not everybody's gonna do that, but that would be nice to have, just to be able to sit down and talk to people and look them in the eye instead of the blogs and all that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you, like, I'm looking at you right now on my screen below the camera, but I feel like I have to look into my camera so that if someone's watching, it actually looks like it looks like I'm looking at you right now, but I'm not looking at you. Now I'm looking at you, but it doesn't look like I'm looking at you.
I know. So half the time I'm looking at the notes in front of me and hoping that he's not paying any attention.
No, I can't tell.
Notes and stuff, but I just had to put that in my head that this is the way things are and this is the way it's done. And
I'm used to it by now, but I had the same problem because I'm a podcaster too. And at first it was a problem of figuring out what the heck do I need to use to make it sound good. And now I got it's a cheap, I don't know, $50 microphone that I bought off of Amazon. But at first I was just kind of like getting really close to my computer so that at least I didn't sound like I was talking far away on a cell phone or something like that. But it definitely took some getting used to, but I feel like people just kind of roll with it. They expect it now.
Well, thankfully, my wife is a reporter and a weekend anchor at Fox 5. So she bought the ring light that I've appropriated for.
Oh, yeah. I got one of those, too.
And this microphone that I have was given to me by our not given to me, but, given to me on loan from our engineers. And I kind of put this whole thing together. I went and got some clamps and I have a Rode thing. So it all works pretty well. But speaking of podcasts and you are a father, correct? How many kids do you have? 2 or 1?
Just 1. I got a little 3-year-old boy.
You have a 3-year-old boy. So you're 3 years ahead of me. I am 50 and my wife and I are about to she's going to give birth, but we're going to have
You're going to be there.
Yes, I will be there. And we're going to have a boy, and it's exciting. I mean,
it is.
early on in life was afraid of it, but for the last, couple of years, I've been real excited. She's worked really, really, really hard on it. And she's just been very brave, that's overused a lot. And I'm not a person who, says things like that, but she's done it. She's just put a lot of effort into it, and hopefully everything will work out fine. I'm sure it will, but I'm excited as hell. So that means I'm going to have to start diving into your podcast, which is called Dadsplaining. So tell everybody about Dadsplaining.
Yeah, sure. So Dadsplaining is a podcast that I started with my buddy Brandon in kind of mid 2018. We became dads around the same time, and neither one of us kind of knew anything about it. We didn't have a whole lot of friends that were parents, and we didn't really feel like reading a whole lot of books. So we just started a podcast, and it was easy for me because I worked at WSB, so I had access to the studio and everything. And they would pay the podcast hosting costs. So, it was an easy decision for me to do because I didn't have to put a whole lot of effort into it. But every week we would just come in and start talking about like what's new with our little 3-month-olds and, what are we having to figure out what to do. And it kind of forced us to do some research on, how do you swaddle the kid? What's the best way to handle, breastfeeding, potty training, that kind of stuff. So every week we would just do research on new topics and put it in podcast form, and have been doing that basically once a week ever since. We took a break for a few weeks when the pandemic started while we figured out how to do it virtually. But now we're still doing it, me from this little closet every week, and my buddy Brandon from his house in Decatur.
And do you have a good response to the podcast?
Yeah, it's been going strong. Because some firms don't share their metrics the same as others, but on Spotify, I know we have a little over 900 followers now. We have some folks that will listen to us on Apple Podcasts, and we're on social media. So on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, that's where we'll get a lot of people reaching out to us. Like new dads will send us messages and say, hey, I just started listening to you guys. I got a kid due in a couple of months and I'm freaking out. I have no idea what to do. So I've just been binging your episodes over the past couple of weeks, and now I'm feeling a lot better, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how we know that we're doing a good job, is when we get messages like that.
Did you start before your son was born?
We didn't start recording. We came up with the idea I think right before my son was born, I started thinking about it. And then after he was born, after I got back from, I took a couple of weeks off work, I started talking to my buddy about it. So it was before his son was born, because he was 6 months behind me. And we started recording in like May-ish. My son was born in November, so he was 6 months old by then, and started releasing them in August of 2018 when he was almost a year old. We wanted to take some time and do some editing and make sure we had it right. But no, it was kind of in those early days where, you don't really sleep a whole lot in the first few weeks, and then kind of you get into a groove with it.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. It feels crazy. You feel like you're not going to survive not getting enough sleep. And then things level out a little bit and you get used to it, and, you get into a groove.
It's funny. 40 years ago, I remember my brother was born. I was 10. And so when I would go visit my dad, I slept in the same room as the crib. So I was up all night long. I mean, this is nothing new to me. I just didn't have to change diapers, and I didn't have to do anything except just, can I please go back to sleep? But I am looking forward to it, and I'm going to go back and start in on your podcast. I think it's something that I need to add into to my life. It's better than the Dr. Spock book. Was it Dr. Spock? It's the
it is. Yeah.
Raising Arizona is the criminals. John Goodman.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Dr. Spock Shears. I forget it. You got to have your tit. And I used to be able to quote that movie like you wouldn't believe. All right. Well, Jesse, if you need any other voices, we'll work together here. And
you're going to be in the mix, man. I just got to figure out where to put you for sure.
But that's not why I brought you on. I thought this would be very interesting. I want people to, if you're not following Seinpeaks on Instagram, go there. And, the link tree, you can find all the links from that Instagram page, but I'm really impressed with your link tree. I'm going to have to sign up for these.
Thanks.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you want to do that, I mean, it's free. You could pay a little extra and get like analytics off of how many people are clicking on stuff and everything. But it's a really free, easy kind of service.
Well, the podcast is called Dadsplaining, and it's all about being a dad. Mm-hmm. And, I hope it applies to old farts like me who are going to be.
Oh, it will.
First-time dads. Good. I have this little book here called We're Parents, the New Dad's Guide to Baby's First Year.
Nice.
but maybe it'll help to have
Yeah,
both in my life. But also
absolutely.
Seinpeaks. And when can we look forward to the other side of darkness?
I am hoping to have that done by this fall. I'm looking at maybe September. Having never done something this big, I don't know exactly how long it's going to take to record and edit. But we're going to be probably recording in mid-May, and then kind of taking a few months to finish recording and edit. And I may do a little focus groups to figure out exactly how to make it sound good so people are going to listen to the whole thing, how long the episode should be, that kind of thing. But I'm looking at this fall to release.
Awesome. And then come back on and when it's out, and we'll promote it again. But in the meantime, all the links that we're talking about will be in the show notes. And Jesse, thanks for spending a half hour with me talking about it. I'm excited for this because those are both of two of my favorite shows. So mashing them up, I mean, come on. And you do a good job about it. It's not just like, hey, I'm going to slap these memes together. Jesse puts a lot of effort into it. And,
thank you.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. And I hope to see you. When are you going to be back at the station, or have I seen you yet?
I pop in once every couple of months. Usually it's just to grab a camera or set up a webcam for somebody. They don't send me in a whole lot because a lot of my work is not for our Atlanta stations. So I don't currently have a planned return to work date. I would guess it might be this summer or this fall, unless they just decide that things are going so well they don't want to, put me back. I don't know. But I pop in sometimes, and if I'm in there when you're in there, I'm gonna pop in and say hello. Absolutely.
All right, please do. Thank you for coming on Radio Labyrinth, and best of luck with everything, Jesse. I'll see you soon, or talk to you soon.
Absolutely. And let me extend a preliminary invitation to you to come on Dadsplaining once your son's in the world and you want to do some talking about it. We'd love to have you on.
I think I would love that. I will need it, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
All right.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, take care.